Good afternoon, Earth. This is Adam Sturch broadcasting from the Mushroom Mansion, Taos, New Mexico, working on oil painting sundial. Okay, next step is going to be starting to fill some of these little monstrous shadow shapes here. So I have a light purple mixed up for her, a light green mixed up for Mr. Frog, a sap green or olive green, one of the two, deep dark green mixed up for the crocodile, and a intermediate sort of mossy green for the snake. And I'm going to see if I can get through those. Oh shit! That's bad. I'm going to have to move this. Okay. Oh, so fix this painting real quick. I just knocked off sideways. Damage, hopefully. So I kind of like it. Okay, so that one's okay. Okay, so now what the hell was I talking about? Oh yeah, so I'm gonna just start with filling those little creatures and see how much time is left. If there's more time, I'll do some more. So here we go. He was principal investigator of a program that systematically explored the heuristic and therapeutic potential of LSD and other psychedelic substances. In 1967, he was invited as clinical and research fellow to the Johns Hopkins University and the research unit of Spring Grove Hospital in Baltimore, Maryland. Interesting how Johns Hopkins was the last man standing in the 60s and one of the first and biggest research facilities now. And the research unit of Spring Grove Hospital in Baltimore. In 1969, he became an assistant professor of psychiatry at Johns Hopkins University and continued his research as chief of psychiatric research at the Maryland Psychiatric Research Institute. In 1973, Dr. Groff was invited to the Esalen Institute in Big Sur, California, where he developed, with his late wife, Christina Groff, holotropic breathwork, an innovative form of experimental psychotherapy, developed in part due to the changed legal status of LSD. And that's now being used worldwide. Dr. Groff is the founder of the International Transpersonal Association. You see why I couldn't put this down. And for several decades served as its president. In 1993, he received an honorary degree from the Association for Transpersonal Psychology for major contributions to and development of the field of transpersonal psychology. Excuse me, given on the occasion of the 25th anniversary, their 25th anniversary convocation. In 2007, he received the prestigious Vision 97 Lifetime Achievement Award from the foundation of Dagmar and Valset Havel in Prague, Czechoslovakia, and has received numerous other awards for his pivotal contributions to the field. Among Dr. Groff's publications are over 150 articles in professional journals and the books LSD, Gateway to the Numinous, Beyond the Brain, LSD Psychotherapy, The Cosmic Game, Psychology of the Future, The Ultimate Journey, several others, and these three, Modern Consciousness Research and the Understanding of Art, The Stormy Search for the Self, and Spiritual Emergence and Holotropic Breathwork, the last three of which were written with his late wife, Christina. These books have been translated into 23 languages. As a psychologist, I want to just say that Dr. Groff has been a bit of a hero of mine and the most well-known psychological, psychiatric voice over the decades in this field. And so it's my great pleasure to introduce him and to turn it over to you.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Before I start talking, I would like to thank Rick Dublin and MAPS for his incredible work in the last 4 decades, moving to a situation where it was virtually impossible to do psychedelic research to this unbelievable global renaissance that's happening. I don't know how you did it, you and your staff, but it's just unbelievably impressive. So Rick asked me to use half an hour this morning to talk about the potential of psychedelics, not just from an individual perspective, but also from a global perspective. So if we look at human history, we see two very powerful forces driving it. One is insatiable greed, acquisitiveness, and the other one is unbridled aggression. direction. This has been happening since the shift from the hunters and gatherers to the development of cities and agriculture, where there was possible to accumulate possessions. So this has been there through centuries. Now, in the 20th century and the 21st century, these forces became really dangerous. In the past, they certainly were destructive for the human groups. That was enough, but it was not damaging the planet. But what happened in the last 100 years with the incredible population explosion, with the escalation of industrial productivity, the unbelievable pollution that's happening, the increase of violence on a global scale. So we are now facing a situation where the survival of the human species is really threatened, and very likely we will take a few other species with us. So the question is there anything we can do about it? What has been done so far, the military interventions, the economic sanctions, diplomatic, political sanctions, if anything, have created more problems than they solve. And a famous statement by Albert Einstein, you cannot solve the problems using the same type of thinking that got you into the trouble in the first place. It requires some kind of radically different approach. So the question is, what can we do? I think people in transpersonal circles see that we are facing a global crisis, but which has many symptoms, but ultimately there is a common denominator to all of them, which is the state of evolution of the human species. If we are sort of different kind of species, if we had hearts and heads in a different place, we could solve the problems in the world. There's enough resources, there is enough know-how. So the question is how we use these sources. If you look at spiritual history, then many of the spiritual teachers agree that you cannot reach inner peace, you cannot reach happiness by acquisition of some external material means. It's property, money, power, fame, state. It requires something else. It requires a profound transformation of consciousness. So the question is, what kind of transformation would it be? How could it be achieved? So I would like to talk about the experiences I have had, the changes that I've seen over the last 60 years in people who were involved in responsible use, experimentation with psychedelics. Now, talking about it, I use a very famous Tibetan tanka, which summarizes somehow the basic ideas of Mahayana Buddhism in Tibet. Now, this is a tanka that is showing the wheel of life, which is held in grip by the Lord of Death. The circle in the middle is divided into 6 segments. These are called lokas. These are the areas into which supposedly can be reborn after death. But they also are areas which we can experience in systematic spiritual practice. And they're also an archetypal domains that then get projected into the world. So if we go to the top, we see the realm of devas, devaloka gods. Then if we go clockwise, this is the realm of asuras, or jealous gods, who are in constant fight with the gods, like what we see in Greece, the Titans against the Olympic gods, and so on. And then the next one is a great realm, which is the realm of the orcas. They're called hungry ghosts. They are very pitiful creatures with big bellies and tiny mouths, which is the size of a pinhead. So they can never get enough. So to a great extent, this is archetype running the industrial civilization, among others. Then if we go further down, this is the realm of hell, Naraloka, which also has the scene of judgment. I will not talk about the details about it, so I want to get to the center. So the next one, if we go, this is the realm of animals, of wild beasts, a realm that's governed by very base instincts. And then the next one, like 11 o'clock, is the Manakaloka, which is the human realm, where you supposedly have the best chances for enlightenment. You have the necessary resources. Now, in the middle of the circle, we can see three animals. This is a pig, a snake, and a rooster. And they represent what in Tibetan Buddhism is called the three poisons. These are the three forces that supposedly keep us on the wheel of rebirth and are causes of all suffering in the world. So the pig represents ignorance, avidya, and the snake represents aggression, violence, and the rooster represents desire, lust, that leads them to attachment. So those are the three Tibetan poisons. Now in Hinayana Buddhism, which is the Buddhism of the small vehicle, the original teaching of the Buddha, the idea was as long as you are in what's called samsaric world, you're incarnate, you will be suffering. And the initial idea was that you want to get completely off the wheel. You have to get into the realm which is beyond creation, which is nirvana. This term nirvana is related to the Sanskrit vata, which means wind. So what it means is evanescence, extinguishing of the torches of life, moving into realm beyond existence. Now then, during the history of Buddhism, a different form developed, which is called Mahayana, the large vehicle, Buddhism of the large vehicle, where the idea was different. The idea was that you can move in the direction of liberation, of nirvana, to the extent to which you can reduce the impact of these three forces in your life: ignorance, violence, anger, aggression, and desire, insatiable desire. Okay, so I'd like to talk about how responsible use of psychedelics can help us to reduce the three forces that are seen as really the main sources of suffering in the world. So if you look at the pig, which is ignorance, so when we use, again, systematically, responsibly psychedelics, we get a lot of new information. We can, for example, get access to repressed and forgotten material from our childhood, the things that happen in infancy, childhood, that make our life difficult. We can, something that's not accepted in current psychology, psychiatry, we can actually relive our birth. We can say how much suffering in our life is determined by the fact that we carry unprocessed memory of birth, with all the difficult emotions and the difficult physical energies which are blocked in the body. We can even find the prenatal causes of difficulty that we have. And we can not only discover them, but we can go there, we can bring them into consciousness, we can process the emotions, we can free ourselves from the powerful negative program, which is the perinatal, prenatal, and postnatal. But it goes beyond this. There's a category of experiences that we call transpersonal, when we can have experiential identification with other people, members of other species, even in the botanical discover a lot of things, sort of information that goes way beyond anything that we know intellectually. We can identify with different animals, and we can, by becoming them, we can get deep understanding what their experience of the world is. Now, avidya, that term which is used in the Buddhist tradition, does not mean ignorance in terms of having a lack of information about the material world. The term avidya ultimately is about something else, which is our lack of understanding of the nature of reality and lack of understanding of who we really are. This is a knowledge that has nothing to do with concrete knowledge, information about the material world. It has to do with the fact that there are normally invisible or imperceptible dimensions of reality that play extremely important role in the life that we are leading. We are not aware that those dimensions exist. We also can discover very different information about the nature of ourselves, who we are. Are we really just Newtonian objects? Are we really just body egos? Or are we something much larger? So this is the kind of knowledge that can counteract the avidya, this fundamental ignorance about the nature of reality and who we are. And this is something that becomes available in psychedelic experiences, or the whole category of experiences which I call holotropic, that help us to move towards wholeness. Holos means whole, and trepo means moving toward wholeness. So what's behind it is the idea that ultimately each of us carries kind of a spark of cosmic creative energy, which in Hinduism is called Atman, and that we can reach that in systematic self-exploration. In Hinduism, of course, is using the different yogas, but psychedelics certainly are a means to achieve that. So we can experience and empirically validate the fact that our deepest nature is not nama-rupa, name and shape, but Atman, this core of cosmic energy. And when we experience it, we realize that that energy is identical with the energy that created the universe, which is then called Brahma. We are not Nama-rupa, we are not body egos, we are ultimately Atman, Brahman, and that knowledge is not available and becomes available in the work with non-ordinary states of consciousness. I wanted to tell a story about Jack Kornfield. One of the things in Buddhism is there's no separate self. A lot of the suffering in the world that we identify with the autonomous separate self. And Jack Kornfield tells a story when he met Kalu Rinpoche as a very eager student of Buddhism and wanted to use that opportunity. So we asked Kalu Rinpoche, can you just in a few words tell me what is the essence of Buddhism? And Kalu Rinpoche says, well, I could tell you, but you wouldn't believe me, and it would take you a very long time to understand what I mean. And Jack said, please tell me anyway. And Kalu Rinpoche says, okay, you don't really exist. Which means not you don't exist, something exists, but it's not what you think it is. It's not the body ego. So this is the kind of knowledge that we get that counteracts the avidya, and it is called Prajna Paramita, transcendental wisdom. Now, if we look at the second poison, which is aggression, again, any of you who have done psychedelics know that we can process a lot of aggression. We see it also in holotropic breathwork. There's aggression which is associated with traumatic postnatal history. There's an enormous amount of aggression that is stored from the time of birth. All the response, aggressive response to the hours of suffocation and the past exploration. One of them being past life experiences, karmic experiences. We can also get in touch with archetypes that are aggressive archetypes. You know that the archetype program is dichotomized. There are dark deities, light deities. There are also grand archetypal seeds like the apocalypse, Ragnarok, the doom of the gods, and so on. So enormous amount of aggression at all those levels, postnatal, perinatal, prenatal, and transversal.
That's a little bit. We got 7 minutes left. I think I got enough time to throw a little blue into that purple and do a shell on the mantis monster chick thing there. Alright, let's see if I can do that.
Experience of that, the only way of addressing that. And we see enormous amount of aggression that becomes available and can be processed with the proper support in psychedelic sessions. So that you can see people really becoming much more peaceful, developing a sense of compassion and sense of connection with the appreciation, and so on. So that is a great potential of psychedelics really get rid of these pockets of aggression which were in the unconscious. Then we get to the next one, which is the symbolized by the rooster, which is this endless greed, sort of desire to have more. And this is something that's very typical for an average person who hasn't done some significant inner work, that we always want more than we have. Things are never sort of good enough. We don't look good enough. We don't have enough possessions, enough money. We don't have enough power. We don't have enough status. And this is something that cannot be solved by more acquisitions. We see people who have billions of dollars of everything that we think would make us happy, but they are not exactly levitating in bliss. And we don't learn. We think that if it would not happen to us if we can improve our economic status, that the life would actually change. So the question is, where does this drive come from? So one of the things that we discover is the fact that we carry undigested, unprocessed memory of birth. On some level, we still live in the birth canal. We were born anatomically. We got out of it, but we have not really processed the hours of pain and fear that we experience in the birth canal. So we see, for example, even in the breath work, not just psychedelics, you can breathe faster for half an hour, and you find yourself in the birth canal instead of in the room where you are doing the breath work. So if it becomes so easily available, like in everyday life, then the question is to what extent it's actually coloring our quality of life, to what extent, some extent, we have not really stepped out, we have not accepted the fact that we are already in the world. So that's one of the major patterns, that the sense of dissatisfaction, and then the feeling that something better is in the future, is the pattern, unfinished pattern of birth. If we are in the birth canal, things are not great. You want to get to some better situation in the future. And you already have the memory that it happened, you got out of the birth canal, but we still carry all the memories. The little crying that happens when we are born is trivial as compared to what it would require to really process all the pent-up emotions and the physical energies that are blocked from that time. So this creates that kind of a drive that we don't, we are not satisfied with how things are. We create an image of some better future when we have more money, when we have a bigger car, a bigger house, when we have more power, when we have more fame, and so on. And this is a loser's pattern. Whether you are achieving it or not, it doesn't really do anything psychologically. So you project somehow the future goal that would bring the correction, a kind of image of what I need to really feel happy, and then we set our life on a kind of linear pursuit towards that goal. And then there are two possibilities: we don't achieve the goal, and then we feel that the reason why we don't feel happy is because we haven't achieved the correction. And the other one, we achieve it, and then we wake up in the morning and the old world is still there. So we don't say this is a loser strategy, I have to do something significantly different. The goal was not big enough. It's not 100,000, it's $1 million. It's not one doctorate, it's two doctorates that we need to get. So this is what Joseph Campbell called getting to the top of the ladder and finding that it was against the wrong wall. Okay, so the people who relive birth, who get a sense of...
Alright, so that's Adam Sturch broadcasting from the Mushroom Mansion, Taos, New Mexico, working on oil painting sundial. That gets a few basic colors blocked in, sort of primed those figures, and I'll continue with the rest possibly throughout the day. If I don't get to that now, then tomorrow with another video session we'll continue with the winged demon and the mantis chick and the scorpion and the balance in the city and the rest of the scenes. Yeah, so that's going to be some slow progress, but it's starting to take shape. Thanks for watching. Have a good afternoon, Earth.
But not completely. There's still enough of the ego drive